One. Hello, everybody. Let me say that better. Hello, everybody. I'm Baruti Carl Alexander. This is my friend, Dr. Deepak Kotecha. Am I saying that right?
Kotecha.
Kotecha. Okay.
Yep.
Did I say it right that time? Kotecha.
That is
Okay. And I've been knowing this gentleman, this guru, for a little while, and I appreciate him coming on the Sourceseeker Hour spotlight so that we can learn even more. He has many varied perspectives on many things. By trade, he's an optometrist, and that's where I would like to start. I and my family have had eye problems, cataracts. What are cataracts?
Cataracts are where the lens of your eye, your natural lens, which sits behind the colored part that focuses everything on the back of the eye, the retina, that lens is completely clear. And over time, with exposure to sun or to toxins, it becomes discolored. And when it blocks light from reaching the retina, we call that a cataract. So it's kind of like.
I just want to ask, it affects your vision.
Correct. It affects your clarity of vision, and it also creates a dazzle factor, which can be quite dangerous in bad weather.
Okay, I was doing a little research on optometry, and you all pay attention and look at reflection, refraction, other terms related to how we see, and you concentrate on eye disorders. What are some of those disorders? Is cataract one?
Cataract is one of them.
What are
the refractive ones are going to be where you cannot see, whether you're short-sighted, nearsighted, need reading glasses. So that would be myopia, hyperopia, or astigmatism, or presbyopia. Presbyopia is where you need reading glasses. The first three can be something that's inherited or environmental. Presbyopia, where you need reading glasses, is a function of just the lens of your eye, which is elastic tissue just wearing out, and you needing reading glasses at about 40 years of age. And every human being needs that.
Yeah, that fits for me. I want to share again. I had a medical emergency and it affected my eyes. Before the medical emergency, I could wear 150 reading glasses. Today, it seems like my vision clears up at 275 reading glasses. Why is that? What would you suggest? If the 275 is okay, is it okay to stay there? I'm sure I need to get an examination one day at least to see where my eyes are. But given that factor of information, what would you suggest?
Okay, so the first thing is always make sure you go in and see your eye doctor for a good eye examination, right? The second thing is, if you went from 150 to 275, then my question becomes, what was your medical emergency and how long did it take before it went from the 150 to the 275? Because one of the conditions that can cause that to happen is fluctuating blood sugar. So diabetes can cause that.
You were saying everything that affects me. First of all, my emergency is I had a stroke, I had a seizure. I was in the hospital. And you asked me how long did it take? As soon as I was able to recover and recognize, I understood my vision was different.
Okay.
And you mentioned the things that affect, you said diabetes affects. I'm learning much more about diabetes since I now have it, but it does, it's in my family. It's in my family history. My daddy, my mother, all of them have had diabetes. So I can understand that. I know I need to get an examination. I got to stop what I'm doing and come in and get one so I can further help my eyes. However, right now, 275, 325 is helping me to see. But when I put the 150 glasses on that I still have, I can't see anything. I
Right.
can't really see anything. So that's a big change for me. You
Correct.
mentioned that you went through some difficulty with your office and your practice situation. Would you like to share that? COVID affected a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And we're still recovering from COVID, even though COVID is still out there. And if you would like, if you could share that also, as well as how it affected you.
Okay. So from a personal standpoint, I was in private practice and have been in private practice with part-time work, different places to get my skill sets for about 30 years. And when COVID, we were inside the city limits. And when COVID first came, everybody was terrified. And since we were inside city limits, we were the first to be shut down. Well, we couldn't stay shut down for very long because that was a new startup for us. And I had invested everything that my wife and I and my family had earned for the last 30 years into it. And we ended up closing down the office because the landlord that we were with, unfortunately, refused to work with us. Even though the president at that time was asking everybody to help each other, my landlord flatly refused and said, no, the rent would have to be due on time. So we basically had no choice but to shut it down. And long story short, we lost everything. So basically now we're starting over. I'm now employed for a great company. I enjoy working there. I have been there about 2 years now and trying to get back. My family's trying to get back on our feet, but it's going to take another 5 to 10 years before we're able to even come to where we're financially stable. So I know a lot of stories like mine. I'm not the only one. I'm well aware. I wrote a little article that says COVID was a black swan event. A black swan event is an event that's pretty traumatic that occurs once every, 40, 50, 100 years, whatever. And COVID changed a lot of things. And we predicted that some of those changes would become sort of ingrained and permanent. So such as remote working, hybrid working, putting family first, putting God first, because patients or people were forced to stay home and reprioritize. And then, you learn that family and friends and God matters a lot. It's not just all about work. And so a lot of people see things differently after COVID. And some of it needed to happen, unfortunately, to get us to reprioritize, where we are going with our life, because we have one life and it's not as long as we would like it to be.
Yes. And we have to be very appreciative and understand that, we can have a car wreck, we can have many different things that can
Yes.
affect our lives in
Yes.
an instant, in a second.
Yes.
I also asked about how is the situation with COVID today?
Okay. So COVID, it's basically a virus. It's an RNA virus. Viruses are notorious for mutations, which means they change. So if we have a plan of attack, they will mutate or change so that the initial plan of attack will not work, whether it's a vaccine or our own antibodies. And so COVID in one form or another is going to be around pretty much a long time, if not forever. As we develop immune resistance to it individually as a species, whatever, the morbidity, which means how bad it gets for as far as what it takes from you health-wise, and the mortality, which means how many people die, will become less. And as we learn more, that becomes less, but there's no magic bullet, there's no magic vaccine against something that continues to change. It's like trying to shoot a moving target.
Are there mutations? Are there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And the mutations, basically can occur from one side of the world, and it'll be a different mutation, another side of the world. And people are upwardly mobile today. We fly from here to there. And so the mutations will then cross over, infect different populations. So there's really no winning this battle, but as we learn more, then the number of deaths associated with it starts to go down. You know, I've personally lost family members to COVID, so it's a horrible situation, but you know, it unfortunately it's here and it's not going to go away.
And people, I guess, we become normalized to it, and as we, I guess, should, but it's still out there. It's still effective. We, I guess, know how to manage a little bit better. People do still wear masks sometimes. I don't always wear one, but you know, especially if you're around, I'm a teacher, I'm around a lot of kids, it's probably suggested that I still wear a mask, and there are people that still wear it, but it seems like as a country, we've adapted to it a little bit more, but we still got to be aware of it. And we don't hear as much about it, but it's still out there.
It's still out there, you know, and the best defense is your immune defense, right? So if you do what is necessary to bolster and boost your immune system, that's going to help, and which means eating right, sleeping right, making time for yourself, making time for family, making spiritual time, making time to meditate, making time to exercise, making time to go out and, you know, take vacations. So you have to balance life and allow your immune system to function at its peak.
Okay, you mentioned spiritual, and the spiritual can help with the physical, with the mental, and all of that goes together to make a healthy human being, but we don't always do it. We don't always maintain it because we got so many pressures, so we don't always discipline ourselves. As a yoga practitioner, do people tell you it's hard to do yoga?
Correct. You know, let me backtrack a little bit. Yoga has several sections to it. The correct way to look at yoga is that it's a system and it's a means to an end as well, right? And the side effect of yoga is physical health. But the primary purpose of yoga is to discover yourself spiritually, right? We're basically spirit beings having a human experience, right? Whether you like it or not, we're spiritual beings. And the sooner we connect with that, the better it is. And yoga basically shows us how to do that. Now, in terms of exercises, the exercises are part of the yoga system. They're called vyayams, and they're designed to allow you to have a control of your mind over matter or mind over body, so that you can sit in a position and not have the body bother you, like, hey, my mind is jumping around, my body is jumping around, my body's hurting, my body's jumping. So the exercises are really supposed to be gentle exercises that allow you to get control over your body, so that you can go towards a peaceful state without having the body irritate you.
But you're saying, I heard that the exercises themselves should not put stress upon you, but some of them are hard to do. I think I'm saying it right. Downward dog.
Yeah.
Are there 9?
There's several. I mean, there's about 108 different common yoga poses and so forth, but a lot of that is to do with breathing, right? And holding a certain pose. And you're not expected to go from A to Z or A to Z from start to finish in a matter of, say, days, weeks, or months, or years. It's a journey. And the idea is you practice enough to where you can sit quietly for minutes or hours if need be, without having your body irritate you. So when you start doing poses that actually hurt, that's going to start damaging your limbs. So for instance, and I'm not picking on anybody, but hot yoga. Hot yoga is absolute nonsense. Goat yoga, beer yoga, these are all nonsense ideas. They have nothing to do with spirituality, really, if they don't get you to sit still. And the idea is, if your mind can be still, and the mind is an expression of your body, right? So if your body is still, then you can more easily control your mind. So you should not do any yoga poses that cause pain. Discomfort, perhaps. Pain, absolutely not.
Okay. Okay. Do you agree that the reason people have problems doing yoga is because we have so many different things trying to influence our mind that we have a difficult time sitting still and being still with ourselves? And that's the greatest difficulty that people have. We understand the benefits. We can understand the benefits of being still and being still to ourselves, and then at the same time moving our body to situations where it is moved, but not moved too hard. So
Correct.
you can understand why it's difficult in this world to be able to sit still because so much is going on, and you're saying to yourself, I really can't just sit still. I got all these responsibilities, but it's so important. I agree, but it's hard. Have you heard people talk about that?
Yes, it is hard. And to quote one of my scriptures is the Bhagavad Gita. And in there, our God, Sri Krishna says, he tells Arjun, who is the seeker in this place, and he says, but the mind is difficult to control. It is easier to control the wind than it is to control the mind. And that is exactly correct. But God replies, Sri Krishna replies, Abhyasana tu Kaunteya. He says basically practice will make perfect. And so if you whittle away and practice every single day and are disciplined enough to do that and slowly increase your practice, initially the progress is slow, but over a period of time, after a period of time, the progress becomes quite rapid.
Understood. I got to mention here, we're talking about a state of contentment. We're talking about a state of discipline. We have to mention young men, they have restless energy. Young men have difficulty being still and staying. And I'm speaking, I have a son, 24, and I'm going through that experience. How can, one thing I would say is that young men have to find a way to calm themselves with, I guess, a partner. What I'm getting at is young men, if they can get with a lady partner that can help them calm their energy, it's an important thing. And when they're not able to do that, they still have restless energy. Now, I don't want to mention about, the other things, the LGBT, all that kind of stuff. I have to admit, I'm not one that, I believe that's out of the norm of what God created. But I do have to recognize that there are people that, they have that mindset persuasion. But young men need to find ways to calm their energy. A lady can help calm your energy a little bit, but she can also agitate the energy. What is your comment on that?
Correct. Whether you're a young man or a young woman, your hormones at that particular stage of life are roaring. And
Yes,
so to ask a young person to sit down and meditate is ludicrous. It's not going to work.
right.
So we start by going it the other way. We start by going discipline. So if you think about it for a second, military says, you're going to wake up at 5 in the morning, or you're going to wake up at 5:30, you're going to go for a run, you're going to do this, you're going to do that. It's going to be regimented. So what Hinduism says is that when you're at that particular age and you're that impressionable, the first thing you need to do is start becoming disciplined. We call that dinacharya. Have a routine, have a disciplined routine. You wake up early, it's early to bed, early to rise. Eat foods that are conducive to energy. For instance, if you eat donuts and pizza and stuff, that's a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of sugar, you're going to have excess energy to burn that really is not nutrition. right?
Yeah.
It's going to make you restless, but not in a positive way. Whereas if you eat wholesome food, you're not going to have that excess buzzing kind of energy, but you're going to have enough energy to do what you need to do to get through the exercise, to get through the day. So it really starts with the mind and saying, you know what, I want to make my life better. And so I'm going to start becoming disciplined. You know, there's a little, there's a military officer, and I forget the name, but I saw this a while back on TV or Facebook, where an officer, a naval officer, is saying, make your bed first. Every morning, make your bed first. And if you can do the little things and discipline yourself to do the little things that are not so little, it'll teach you how to organize life, and therefore how to organize your mind and push that energy into a positive, correct direction. And yes, a partner can be a big asset at that time, but can also be a great liability if they're not of a similar mindset. You know,
Yes.
and the flip side of that is, show me your friends and I'll show you your future, right?
Okay.
You have to surround yourself with people who inspire you rather than draw you down.
Yes, all that is true. Some people do not start from the environment that will give them that support system. But if you are seeking strong enough, you can find that environment. I strongly believe that. So really, it's still all up to the individual. We all have environments. We all have obstacles. We all have different things that can affect us. But find something that can help you move in a positive direction and stay on that path. You have an opportunity. So I agree with that. One last question about yoga. I know you have a martial arts background. Do you sense some similarities? Are there similarities? There are different levels in karate and martial arts.
Yes.
I'm hearing there are different levels in yoga. There's a difference between a yoga practitioner of 10 years and somebody who's been in it a year. What is your comment on that?
Okay, so the first thing you want to do is, you do not want to judge by how many poses they can do. Yoga is to attain wisdom and to attain knowledge about God and your true spiritual nature. It has very little to do with how many times can you twist yourself, how high can you jump. So to get back to your first question, there is a lot of similarity between martial arts and yoga in that discipline is required in each. And where I worked out in Pearland, I had an authentic Korean master, a 7th degree black belt. We would start our class with meditation, just peaceful, quiet meditation, sitting for 10 minutes. And we would end the class with 5 minutes of meditation. And discipline was a must. And we would go through steps. And these steps then, if you were to apply them to life, are very similar to yoga in many ways. And then yet yoga is very different in that its entire focus is spirituality, your true nature, and God.
It sounds powerful. Okay, I want to go back to the beginning. You told me you were born and raised in Kenya.
Yes, I was.
And
I'm a third generation.
yes, and you started out in Hinduism in Kenya, or was that a generational from your family? How did you get into Hinduism?
You know, and this is the odd thing. I'm a third generation Kenyan, but our entire family is Hindu, right?
Yes.
So we're generational Hindus.
Did you find any people who were of Hindu or were interested in Hindu when you were in Kenya? And when did you leave from Kenya?
I left when I was 16.
Okay.
And I came to the US to study. But Kenya has a large population of Hindus. It is not the predominant religion in Kenya is Christianity, and the second one is Islam.
Okay.
The third one is Hinduism.
That is big. That's people don't know that. I find that people do not know Hinduism, and then they attach all of these different fables and different things to it because they really haven't looked at it. You know,
Right.
they don't know about the Upanishads or the Vedas and don't know what Brahma means. So
Right.
they say so many things, and then it's kind of hard to get them off of that. But of course, people going to be where they're going to be. So you kind of let them stay there. It will take so much time to try to explain. However, we have an opportunity to share some things to maybe enlighten. What are some of the things that you have heard about Hinduism? And then how do you correct or attempt to correct?
Okay. So Hinduism basically is viewed as paganism by the Abrahamic religions, right? So because they do not understand, the two religions, the two Abrahamic religions do not understand what Hinduism is about. The biggest difference in Hinduism, right? What most people believe is that we have multiple gods. And we do not believe in multiple gods. We believe there is only one God. I'm wearing scrubs today. I could be wearing a suit tomorrow. I could have a mask on. I could have a hat on. That doesn't make me different people. It makes me the same person. And so if you see me on different days, you will see different viewpoints, right? So Hinduism says God wouldn't be God if you could pigeonhole him into one particular faith or belief system. That's the first thing. The second thing
I
is,
agree with that.
so we're not believers of multiple gods. We're a believer in one God. Now, even that will be
If I can ask this,
Sure.
if I can ask this,
Sure.
when you see the image of, I guess when you see the image of the Hindu faith, and then you see all these multiple branches. One of the branches is Krishna.
Yes.
And first of all, am I explaining this right as a layman? I see all of these branches. You say you have one God, and there is one God, but then there's multiple branches. Most people would associate as angels. And I know Jesus is considered a part of the branch of God. Am I correct in this?
That is correct. And
Okay.
the correct name for Hinduism is Sanatan Dharma, right? And Sanatan Dharma is basically the tree, and the different branches. There's generally multiple branches based on how many ways God is represented or manifested on earth. But for me, Krishna is the ultimate.
But say that again, please.
For me, Krishna is the ultimate God.
Krishna is the ultimate God. Okay.
For me, yes.
What is Brahma? Isn't that an experience of God somewhat like nirvana in the Zen faith? Is that what that is?
No. So there's Brahma, which is the creator, the physical, the creator of the physical universe. And then there's Lord Rama, who is a manifestation of Krishna, right?
Can you say that again? What is it?
All right. So the way, Hinduism is completely scientific, right? So it tries to explain creation. So for instance, the Bible has Genesis, the book of Genesis.
Yeah.
And it tells you that the world was created in 7 days and so forth. So our creator, the creation portion of God is called Brahma.
Okay.
Right? But
His
God
creative
himself,
energy, or the entity God's creative energy? Is that
yes.
what? Okay.
Yes. Right. And then Lord Ram is just a manifestation of Krishna, depending on the time's need. So we call that an avatar.
Yes. Yeah. So somewhat like Christianity says the spirit of the truth rises up at different times in different periods of life to represents God's energy. That's what it says in Romans. So you're saying, and Brahma, this creative energy, and what was the point that you were just saying about that. I related it to spiritual truth.
So no, that is correct. So Krishna is the God, but Brahma is the creative force that creates this physical material universe.
So Brahma can transfer to different people at different times.
Correct.
Okay, I got it.
The creation energy can transfer anytime. And then Krishna, which is the God, can manifest as Ram or as Buddha. See, Buddhism is part of Hinduism. Buddhism is not separate.
Okay, a
Buddhism
little
is one of
background
the
on that.
Huh?
Buddhism started in India. Most
Correct.
people think it started in either China or Japan, but it started in India. Correct, isn't it?
That is correct.
Okay. Is Hinduism the oldest religion?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
It's the
And
oldest religion on the planet.
yes, understood. Are there other things that I think we can help people under? First of all, they believe in Jesus. Hinduism believes in Jesus. They believe that we all have God energy in us, or what you call Brahmanism, I believe. And please correct me if I'm going, because we are educating some people that don't know anything about Hinduism and still
Correct.
think of it, as you say, a pagan faith. And,
Correct.
we want to clarify some of these things, some of these perspectives that people have, and try to change those. I want to go back to the branch, the tree. Can you share, Krishna is the head of the tree, or a part of the tree? And can you share some of the other parts of the tree?
All right. So for us, Krishna is the tree.
Okay,
But
Krishna is the
the
tree.
different branches, yeah. The different branches would be Vaishnav. So Vishnu is an avatar of Krishna. So Vaishnavism is one of them. Buddhism is another one. So Buddhism is part of Hinduism, right? Jaivism, Lord Shiva, right? So we believe in the trilogy, right? There's a creation force, there's a force that sustains the material universe, and then there's a force that'll basically destroy the material universe and put it back to rest. So the creation force is Brahma, the sustaining force is Vishnu, and then the force that puts it back to peace, to neutrality, is Shiva. So these are the three main branches, and then Buddhism is the fourth branch that came out. Now we have many branches based, we have Jainism, we have Sikhism. So there are many branches that have come out of the tree, and these are all good. But there's one of the big difference that I want to point out. Whereas the Abrahamic religions basically divert your attention to a set of codes and say, you start out as a sinner, right? That every man is a sinner and you'll be redeemed. Hinduism says we're all divine. Hinduism does not say we are sinners. Hinduism says we are divine, and it is up to us to inquire into that true nature, which is divine. And so Hinduism is all about self-inquiry, meaning inquire within yourself rather than dogma. So it encourages open debate and discussion based upon the scriptures, which are called the Vedas. The Vedas are the main scriptures that pin Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma.
Can I ask about the Vedas? My understanding is, and I have a couple of books. I did not understand everything, but I did read a lot about it. The Vedas are the sacred scriptures, as you said, and they are like a group of poems, essays that have a long history of spiritual nature. Is that
That is
accurate?
correct. That is
Okay.
correct. That is correct.
What are the Upanishads?
The Upanishads are a part of the Vedas, where the spiritual discussions are entered into, which are typically called the wisdom clauses. So if you have the gurus that have meditated endlessly upon this, that have had self-inquiry, that have had self-realization, have gotten to know their true spiritual nature, have now gotten to know what God is, those are the gurus that write down their experiences with their spirit nature and with God. And that's the Upanishads.
Okay. And a group with Upanishads, as well as other texts, made up the Vedas. And how many Vedas are there? How are they sectioned off?
Okay, so there are 4 main Vedas, right?
Okay.
Initially, there was only one Veda, right? And now there are 4. But the main function of the Vedas is this. You have general divisions where the beginning of the Vedas will have a set of poems or poetries or essays. You will have chantings or mantras, as we call it, to invoke
Mantras,
specific mantras.
M-A-N-T-R-A?
Correct.
Okay.
Mantras that invoke specific spiritual energies or specific experiences. And then at the very end, you have the discussions, which is the Vedant or the Upanishads. But you know, the Vedas are very, very complex. And unless you spend many, many decades studying them,
You
it
said
is really
decades.
hard. Yeah, it is really hard to understand it. So there's a system that helps this. And the Upanishads are basically the essence of the Vedas, right? So all the knowledge of the Vedas then are distilled into the Upanishads. So we have 4 Vedas, and then we have 108 main Upanishads.
Can I ask what are the 4 Vedas?
My goodness. I will come back to that in a second. But let me
Okay,
finish.
and I can look it up also. I got these books on the shelf,
Okay.
but it's an important document. But I wanted to say this also. A lot of Christianity, comes from, it's a encompassing religion, but also it's taken a lot from other religions. Also, for instance, the concept of the one God that came from other religions first. It did come from other religions first. But Christianity is viewed by some as a part of the tree also. It's just a part of the tree. And, I guess the pagan faith, or who would say that, would say that's a desecration. But I think all of them have similarities to a certain extent. And that's what I'm sharing. And that's why Jesus can end up as a part of the tree also.
That is absolutely correct. And and I say this with all sincerity, that Sanatan Dharma or Hinduism is the oldest religion on the planet. Everything that came after that borrowed a little bit from there.
Yeah.
And you and I have had discussions about the current version of the Bible, and then the Bible, which is multi-volume set, which sits locked in the Vatican vault, right? And the Bible that sits locked in the Vatican vault has more similarities to the Vedas than the existing Bible.
Where is that? What vault is it locked in?
Vatican.
The Vatican. Okay. Okay.
Yep. And
some people say that the scripture started in Africa also, when Jesus came to the African countries and so forth. That's a story. And a lot was taken from those ancient religions and into the Bible. And if you look at history and where all the countries that are discussed in the Bible are, then you can see that possibility came in, because these countries are not so far from one another, especially in the Middle East, even in Europe. And, in Africa, Africa is not that far from the Middle East if you cross the Red Sea. So, right. Yeah, you can see where all of this kind of came together, where they took some from here, took some from here. And it's kind of all a big spiritual melting pot in a way. That's the way I kind of see it. But I look at all religions. I've looked at Buddhism, I looked at Hinduism. I have looked at the Hare Krishnas, not spent so much time on it, but by faith, by origin, I was raised a Jehovah's Witness. So that was a whole different upbringing also. But I am a student of religious context, faith, and spirituality, and looking at different things, because we're all still looking for the answer. So we have, when did you start in optometry? When you were a 16-year-old in Kenya coming to the United States? Why did you get involved in optometry as opposed to being a regular doctor or a psychologist or any of those things?
You know, there's two ways to look at that. One is that I've always had glasses. I've always had pretty bad eyesight. I've been very nearsighted all my life. I started wearing glasses when I was 5 years old. So I've always had an interest in vision. The second part of that is that, you know, there's an old tale that says that you see the soul through the eyes. And that, unfortunately or fortunately, is very, very true. One who is a master of yoga can look at a person's eyes and deduce a lot about that person right away. Not about the person physically, but about the soul that actually sits in the person. The third thing is, when I came to this country, the laws were different. I came as a foreign student. And so when I graduated from undergraduate college here, I was still a foreign student. And at that time in Texas, and I think most of the US, the law said that a foreign student could not be admitted into a medical school because the medical schools were state-supported institutions. And now the laws have changed. Now foreign students are admissible with certain conditions. But at the time, even though I had a pretty good GPA and a pretty good MCAT score, top of my class, I was denied even an interview because I was on a foreign student visa. However, the same laws did not apply to optometry school, and vision has always been my second love. And so I ended up in optometry school, and I've not regretted it one bit.
Okay, I was about to ask, had the rules been different and you could have went to any medical school or any type of school you wanted to, but you answered that question. You said, no regret. I like what I'm doing, and so forth. And you also said a very interesting thing. Your second point was the eyes are the window to the soul. Basically, that's what you were saying. And you can see a lot by looking at somebody in the eyes and so forth. You can kind of see a little bit of their soul, a little bit of their spirit and determination.
Correct.
I understand that perspective, and for the most part, it is true, but there are occasions, of course, where you can't always tell by looking at somebody. And, you know, because I've been a victim of that so many times. People will look at me and think they know who I am and what I'm about and so forth. And 90% of the time, they're very wrong. You know, I don't know why I get this. Some people say I'm meek and they can take advantage of me, you know, until I speak up and, you know, my voice carries, it's strong, it's loud. And usually when I get a chance to show that part of myself, they get a different perspective. But some people, they push a little further. I'm sure you've encountered certain things like that.
Yes, I have. I have all the time. You know, and people take me for meek as well, until I start talking.
But I tend to say, if the person has survived 50, 60 years, you got to know that they have some resilience as well as some character, that they'll speak up and fight for themselves. They didn't get to 50 or 60 without being able to do that. So
There's a difference.
This world that we live in has so many different perspectives. And going back to that settled spirit, it's very hard, even for a 40 or 50-year-old, because there's so many things. And you have to have a good support system in place and still keep seeking all your life that support system, because it's very important. And with it, it can help you go further. And I appreciate my association with you. I believe that it enhances me greatly, and I appreciate our conversations, our knowledge, and it's very important. And I'm not one to be put in a box. Some people say, well, you just got to be Christian and everything will be all right, or you just got to hang around these particular people. I hang around the right people, but I am inquisitive of other people also. Not that I'll take everything or want to be what they want me to be. That's not true. But I believe even people who I've had difficulty with, I still sometimes engage them to understand where their perspective was. Was I correct? And I'm my judge. I'm not letting other people judge me. I'm not judging that, but I'm always wanting to judge, was I fair? Was I realistic? And did I come at this in the right way? And I'm always a judge of myself about that. Yes.
And see, and that's a wonderful perspective, because that's all about self-inquiry, right? That's all about being teachable, being understanding, being compassionate. You know, earlier you said about being meek. There's a difference between being meek and being gentle. You know, and to me, you're a gentle person. You're not a meek person. You're a very gentle person. And there's a huge difference there, right? So when you start evaluating yourself and saying, did I do this correctly? The idea is whatever situation God throws at us, even through difficult people, and especially through difficult people, is a blessing, because it teaches us more about ourselves, our willingness to learn, our willingness to understand, our willingness to broaden our horizons. Are we willing to encompass everything? Are we able to have that capacity for compassion? So difficult people teach us more in real life. Difficult experiences, difficult people, difficult situations. If you are able to learn from them, you'll come out a much better, much stronger, much kinder person, I think.
And I believe it helps your associations, your longevity, and your relationship with your family and so forth. We
Exactly.
are
It
at
goes
the
to
end.
character.
Go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
said it goes to character.
Yes. We are at the end of our program. We've shared a lot, but I want to leave as much time as you would like to share anything that you would like to on the area of eyes, on the area of yoga, on the area of Hinduism, and just general life for our audience. And then after that, I'm gonna look quickly at our Facebook connection to see if there's any questions, and then we'll come back and we'll end.
Okay, so let's start with eyes. You know, with the eyes are the only place in the body where we can actually look in and see what's going on, because the entire body, including the brain, is represented there in some way or another, some form or another. So if there's something going on in the eyes, it means that there's something going on in the body. We're usually the first patient or first people to pick up patients with diabetes, with hypertension, and so forth. And so it is really important to get your eyes checked once a year, especially after the age of 40. Babies should have their eyes checked at the age of 6. I used to work at MD Anderson, and the risk up there is not that we're looking for glasses, we're looking for tumors, eye tumors and brain tumors. So babies should have their eye exams, their first eye exams at the age of 6. And everybody else should have their eyes checked periodically, but certainly by the age of 40 once a year. It just goes to good health. Second, as far as Hinduism and yoga, I'm going to tie this together. Hinduism is the oldest religion on the planet. It's called Sanatana Dharma. The Vedas are the Vedas are the sacred scriptures of Hinduism. The 4 Vedas that you alluded to are the Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sam Veda, and Atharva Veda. Upanishads are the spiritual discussions inside the Vedas. Upanishads represent the sacred knowledge, the distillation of knowledge from the Vedas, and the Bhagavad Gita represents this further distillation of all that Upanishad knowledge into one book, which is called the Bhagavad Gita, which for us is ultimate. Hinduism believes in self-inquiry. Therefore, inquire into your true spirit nature, because we're not human beings having this experience. We're spirit beings having this human experience.
Yes, it's a lot of information. I just checked our Facebook connection. We don't have anything at this time. However, if we get some comments or questions, I will forward them on to you, and
Okay.
I'll let you respond and so forth. And
All right.
as always, I thank you very much. I'm still going to be asking different questions on you personally, different questions on Hinduism. I want to know
Absolutely.
more. I want to know. I'm going to try to get into Vega a little bit. My mind moves around so much. But I got up to a green belt in karate. Now, I'm not as young as I used to be, but I still have that experience. And I like that experience. I need to do more of it, and maybe I can get back to it. I would like that. I can keep up with my son then, so forth.
There you go.
I am going to do an eye examination. I promise you, I'm going to do an eye examination. I'm going to get that. I got a lot of medical things I got to deal with, but the main thing is eat right, sleep right, get your exercise, and try not to have so much stress. I logically know that. I know that logically. It's just a matter of maintaining, doing it. And you always got to have that battle with yourself.
Yes.
You always have to have that. And I'm having it right now. I stopped a certain vice this morning. I said, okay, I'm not going to drink that soda anymore. I'm going to do better. And it's just a constant battle. And I'm going to try and always continue that. I have value in this world, and I want to use my value to the best of my ability. And I want to share with everybody out there. We appreciate our friend, Dr. Deepak, and we're going to try to have him on more and more to be able to share with us. There's a lot of information he has besides what we just talked about. I remember when we had the conversation on climate change, you had wanted to get into that. We're going to have that conversation again, because that's an important conversation for our global world and so forth. So I'll be coming back to you with different subjects, different things. Do you have a final word?
No, I want to say thank you for inviting me, and don't forget the power of the prayer.
Do you have any website or anything you would like to promote? Anything?
At this time, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Source Seeker Hour Spotlight. I'm Baruti Carl Alexander with Dr. Deepak Kotecha.
Kotecha.
Say it one more time.
Kotecha.
Kotecha. See, I got to practice it to say it right. Kotecha. And we thank him, and we're going to see you next time for the next show. The next show will be a spotlight with my brother, Daryl Malloy, and that's going to be on the 29th. We will see you, and we are